Normalization of Violence as Political Discourse. Vladimir Solovyov's program is a condensed example of how Russian state television transforms political communication into a mixture of threats, conspiracy theories, and mocking humor. Despite its emotional form, the program's structure is highly functional. It simultaneously intimidates external actors, mobilizes domestic audiences, and justifies Russia's further actions, both politically and militarily. 1. Threats to European leaders as a tool for normalizing violence. The program opens with direct threats against European politicians, Kaja Kallas, Ursula von der Leyen, and representatives of the Baltic states. They are promised reprisals, imprisonment, and quick death. Aggressive, dehumanizing language is used. Thieves, scum, no one will die in a warm bed. This serves several propaganda purposes. External intimidation. State television demonstrates a willingness to speak to European leaders through the language of physical intimidation. Internal mobilization. Audiences receive emotional confirmation that enemies of Russia bear personal responsibility for what is happening and will be punished. Erosion of moral standards. The constant blending of violence and showmanship makes harshness a normal element of political discourse. It's important for European readers to understand that such threats are not a solo performance by the host, but a rhetorical pattern regularly repeated on Russian television. We will persecute you all until your last day, which will come much, much sooner than you plan, because you will be afraid. Each of you, Kaja Kallas, Ursula von der Leyen, not one of you will die in your warm apartments and cozy beds. I'll give you all a hard time. You need to go to jail. Thieves, you need to go to jail. And all that tribal scum, all those people with unpronounceable names, Kubelis, you will all go to jail. Oh my! Thanks to the humanization of our legislation, we have a lot of free space in our prisons, a lot. 2. Delegitimization of Ukrainian elections and democratic institutions. The topic of elections takes center stage. Participants in the show ridicule arguments about the impossibility of holding them during wartime, accuse Kiev of violating the constitution, and assert that any elections involving Zelensky will be declared invalid. Several propaganda techniques are used here. Confiscation of the topic of democracy. Russia attempts to portray itself as a defender of proper constitutionality, while ignoring its own violations of the legal system. Preemptive discrediting of Ukraine's future institutions, regardless of the outcome. Any potential Ukrainian political decision is declared illegitimate in advance. Creating the image of a weak and manipulated state, Zelensky is portrayed as someone who is hiding something, prevaricating, and fearing the real opinion of the people. This scheme is aimed at persuading domestic viewers to perceive any Ukrainian political development as chaos and fiction. 3. Normalization of military escalation. Particularly alarming is the fact that the discussion of a possible Russian offensive in Donbass is presented with cynicism and irony. The idea is aired that Ukrainian troops will be buried in Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, while the mass evacuation of civilians is discussed as an unimportant detail. The functions of this narrative are presenting future escalation as inevitable. It's not aggression, but the natural course of events. Shifting the focus from the humanitarian consequences. Civilian suffering is erased from the frame. Creating a sense of Russian strength and resolve. Everything Ukraine does is portrayed as a desperate delay of the inevitable. This way, Russian audiences get used to the idea that the war can escalate and that this is normal. 4. Europe and NATO as the true enemy. The segment devotes significant attention to a British journalist from The Times and the first officially acknowledged death of a British serviceman in Ukraine. This is presented as proof of NATO's direct involvement and a turning point. Since the British appeared, Russia has the right to view Europe as a party to the conflict. The propaganda logic is simple. Blur the line between support and direct participation. Turn NATO into a full-fledged party to the conflict. Justify potential symmetrical measures. The show even fantasizes about assistance to armed groups in Ireland or Scotland. This is a vision of a future confrontation in which Europe is not an ally of Ukraine, but a provocateur of war.